collaboration and working together, cooperating, and if people are depressed, often they are also lonely, or like the loneliness can lead to depression. There's links between think of like, more sad stuff like elderly people on their own. Like, it's the company that they've got the TV on, but that isn't the same. Yeah. I know that in Slack or whatever, you are two-way communicating. The TV isn't necessarily doing that. But the reality is you have to be with people if you're going to really make a difference with it. But you don't have to do it all the time.
We are going to talk today about, let's roll back. We're all kind of familiar with this idea of the digital nomad. Like that came out probably, I don't know how many, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago. And it's the idea, typically it's someone in their mid-20s, a developer, contractor, and figured out that they can basically do the work that they do anywhere in the world. So they can,
living their best life.
Yeah, they can code on the beach in Bali and still earn, so they can travel around Southeast Asia.
I dispute that. How are you with a laptop in the sun?
Well, when I say beach, maybe a beach cafe or something.
Yeah.
with Wi-Fi connection.
I've always wanted to sit outside and enjoy the sunshine. I mean, is it just my laptop settings are wrong? I mean, how the hell do you do that?
Yeah, that's true.
I can't see anything apart from my face looking confused.
Even in an English garden. But I suppose that cliche is, you travel around Southeast Asia and you get paid and you do an interesting job. Whereas before you might have had to do, I don't know, work in a bar or something, or not do a job and just live off a meager your savings. So that kind of concept is there, that people can move around. And obviously with a company like ours, we are a distributed team. And if you're a leader, there's a certain challenge that raises. There's two things about being a leader, I guess. One is probably you're a bit older, not definitely, but you possibly you are. If you founded a company, you've probably had to go around the block a few times, so you're probably not in your early 20s. Obviously, that's a huge generalization, but you might have a little bit more kind of years under your belt.
If you did a bell curve over the whole planet of people that own companies, I think the average would probably end up being around somewhere between late 30s and mid 40s. Probably. So
probably you've got a few other things going on in your life. You might have a mortgage, you might have a significant other, you might have kids or whatever. So you can't. It's not easy to be a complete digital nomad in that sense. And actually, you can't be. So you can't just bum around Asia. The key thing as a leader is that you need to spend time with your team. And so the challenge is, how do you do that? If you're a leader and you need to physically, if you agree, I mean, maybe you don't, but if you agree that you need to physically spend time with your team and your team is distributed all over the world, how the fuck do you organize yourself to do that? And how do you make it work, basically? And within ScreenCloud, I was thinking this morning, with there's probably we've got 4 models that we've kind of worked with, and we could probably kind of go through there. I mean, I guess I could summarize. So just to be clear, so we've got an office in Bangkok, we've got an office in London, we've got an office in Belfast in Northern Ireland, and we've got an office in LA, but we've also got people that are...
maybe New York.
Yeah. But we've already got someone in New York, we've got someone in Phoenix, we've got someone in Vietnam, we had someone recently who's in South Africa, someone else in Belgium. So, we're kind of very much geographically distributed, and there's good reasons for that, and we think that's the right thing to do for our company. But it does leave the leaders of that company, the founders, I suppose, and other leaders, with a bit of a dilemma if you're managing teams in multiple locations. So, for example, for me, the teams that I manage are sales and marketing, and kind of the finance, but we've got a CFO for that, really. But sales and marketing. Some of whom are based in London and some of whom are based in LA. And actually this year, the plan is to really beef up that LA team as we move upstream in terms of the types of people that we're selling to.
I think you've got it hardest in that respect, because most other teams, the whole team is together in one of those places, but you've got the split, and it's like a reasonably even split.
Yeah.
So it's not like the majority and then the odd one. I mean, it genuinely is like well, especially now we've got a head of marketing joining in LA,
Yeah.
like both in sales and marketing who report into you, you have a split, and that's tough because like in engineering, there's like specific engineering in a location, in another location, you know, professional services, which I'm running, and support is spread, but it has to be spread because of the 24/5 and soon to be 7. But it's kind of built into the job, so it's less weird.
Yeah, but I guess also, you know, just as founders, you know, your customers are all over the place. Even if they're not necessarily your direct reports, you probably want to be able to visit those countries and visit those teams. And so I guess I think to broadly summarize it, we're kind of working with 4 models. So model 1 is so what I was doing last year is I was spending a month every 4 months in LA. So bear in mind, as I said earlier, you know, older, I've got kids, I've got, you know, a wife and all the rest of it. So for me, I can't just bugger off for months at a time. You know, that just doesn't work for my, you know, my home life. So what we did was that we took the kids over during the school holidays and a little bit extra. So at Easter, we went for a month. You know, school holidays were only 3 weeks. Summer was easier because it's longer. And then December, again, we took a couple of weeks out of school to go to LA. So that's one way of working, and it's quite effective. But it is still a bit of you know, upheaval. What we're planning to do now is for me to, I guess, kind of flip it. So I'm going to spend most of my time in LA with you know, the family coming out and properly moving there and going to school there, that kind of stuff, and then coming back to the UK. Maybe not all of us all the time, but you know, maybe I could, but certainly we would come back as a family, you know, a couple of times a year too. So we're kind of doing, it's a way, and I think that's partly because the focus last year was not so much on the sales team in LA, whereas this year it really, really will be, and for the foreseeable future. So that kind of makes sense. We've also got obviously a lot of our customers are in America. And then, so there's 2 models there. One is that, you know, well, I guess it's the same model, but we just flipped it.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm not sure that's exactly 2 models, but we'll call it model 1A and model 1B.
1B, yeah, which is kind of derivation of the
That's not to downplay the change to your life.
Yeah, and it is big.
Large.
I mean, it's funny actually.
As a model, it's slight difference. As a personal thing, it's a huge difference.
Yeah, I feel like Dominic Raab here saying I hadn't quite realised that that France and Dover was such an important. It kind of feels like I hadn't quite realised quite how much of a logistical thing it is with a family. You know, I mean, schools is a fucking massive thing, as you can imagine. But you know, just it comes down to the tiny things as well, like what do I do about our dog? What do we do about our cars? Well, you know, all those sorts of things. It's a you know, a lot to contend with. But anyway, so that's one model, and I think it's worked. Certainly, it's worked last year, and I think it will work this year. But actually, for us. It's quite a big change. I mean, I say for us as founders, it's quite a big deal that one of us would relocate. I mean, having said that, Luke relocated to
This is somewhat
Thailand.
of a stream of consciousness.
Yeah. Okay,
what's model 3?
Model 2, if you like, or if it was 1A and 1B, is Luke's model. So Luke is planning to basically do a 6-month world tour.
It's the Grateful Dead.
Yeah. So his plan is to go out to go out to America for 3 months next year with his family. Again, same sort of situation. He's actually going to homeschool his kids. And then that's for the first 3 months. So spend a bit of time in LA, but then kind of move around the country, and then probably come back to Thailand and then spend like 3 months in Europe and spending time with the team in Belfast and in London. And then I guess the 4th model is the McD model, the Mark model, which is basically just getting on a plane a lot.
It's a great model.
Yeah.
Actually, there is some framework to that model because I was thinking about that because I figured that might be the last one because I was thinking, what's my model? So I tend to do a lot of shorter trips. And to be honest, that sometimes works well, and it sometimes is an absolute kicker on jet lag. I got smashed on jet lag for some reason coming back from LA before Christmas. It genuinely, like 2 weeks later, still having really interrupted sleep. It was horrible, like really horrible. Like just being awake half the night, like from 2 a.m. to like 5 a.m. or something. Yeah. So I wouldn't like I guess you've got to manage that. So you've got to be kind of conscious of the flights you take, and how that works. And sometimes it just doesn't work. I mean, actually, the last 2 times we went to Thailand, it worked really well. And I didn't really experience any jet lag, apart from waking up a bit early, but you could almost describe that as an efficiency bonus. But
you could read your emails.
Regular listeners will get that. But what I have started to do a little bit, not on every trip, because otherwise it would get ridiculous. Have you heard of the concept of I think I remember the term correctly, workation?
No, but I can guess what it means.
Yeah, so it's something that's actually quite popular. Just generally, as companies are becoming more global, and it's not just for founders, it's for everyone involved. If you are traveling quite a lot with your work, which more people are, we're much more interconnected, then actually, sort of partly it's economizing, because you use the work flight to get you somewhere, and then you just tack on like a weekend or extra things and have a little holiday. And your partner or friends could fly out and join you, or whatever it might be, or you just do it your own, or whatever works that way. That's quite cool. So I did that after because you came straight back from ScreenCloud together at Bangkok, because you've been away from kids, and we've done a lot of travel recently. So I imagine that was the main reason. We had a bit of a kind of work thing for like a couple of nights, but then we stayed on like another 4 days and just chilled out in this beautiful, chilled Thai resort by the beach. And it was November, and it was a wonderful sunshine and having a nice infinity pool and good food. Oh God, it was great. Now, would we've gone out to Thailand for 4 days? No. Yeah. But anyway, so that's also another thing. But yeah, I generally speaking, I'm kind of like short, small trips, kind of bouncing around quite a lot, and that might get very tiring, down the road. I would have thought it probably will.
I was talking to a guy at Sastock, he's an Irish guy, and he had a job in Austin, Texas, and he said, like, to start with, he was flying all the time. I think he said he did, I think it's like 26 international flights in a year or 2 years or something. So is
that like 26? Like there and back?
I think so. Effectively, pretty much every other weekend he was flying to Texas.
Okay, I'm not quite at that level, but I'm probably maybe getting there.
But he said it just destroyed him. He was broken health wise. His marriage was like, really suffering as well. And so he took the decision, right, this is just crazy. We just need to move. We need to all move to.
Well, that's probably. I imagine that these models aren't just a model you follow for life, but they're kind of a model you follow until the next model.
Yeah.
But I think there's another couple of things about that. I mean, it's certainly your perception of what a long flight changes somewhat drastically. Like I did a 3-hour flight at the weekend, and I was like, it's like getting on the tube. Yeah. Doesn't even count. I was like, yeah. And for some people, that's probably the longest flight. I mean, most people, if they just in their own continent, like, I mean, maybe in the US is a bit bigger, but 3 hours you can get pretty much anywhere in Europe, pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah, 3 hours, like, that's nothing. 12 and we're talking, or 10 and we're talking. But not that I take serious pride in that. But the other thing I would always try and do is, I think the 2 luxuries, even if we still don't do any upgrade whatsoever, really. The only upgrade that I do kind of semi-insist on, actually, there's 3 things. The rule of 3.
A massage?
No, it's not that generous. Maybe 4. No. First one, be kind on the times of day you fly. Just because it's a bit cheaper doesn't mean you should be getting out of bed at 3:30 in the morning, because that's just screwy. Yep. Right? So give yourself a little bit of forgiveness for a slightly more expensive flight that doesn't murder you in terms of either late or early.
Yep.
Second one, I'm 6'2". Where possible, unless it's a short flight, get the exit row, just so that I'm not like for 10 hours having my legs splayed apart.
Yeah.
Also, it means there's no one in front of you who's going to do that whole thing of like zipping back. So I've now got 3 inches in front of my nose, because that's actually, it's slight torture. And I don't put my seat back because I actually care about other people, even if I don't know them. Whereas other people have no problem at all. Boom, there you go. Enjoy that tiny amount of personal space. I just won't recline.
Really?
I don't think it's right.
Oh.
No.
But everyone's reclining, so apart from you.
I just think it's just a personal thing. I don't recline.
Yeah.
You shouldn't recline. Get yourself a neck pillow. You know, I mean, what you can sit on a sofa. Why do you have to have a easy chair? Like, I don't know. I personally don't recline. Just out of respect for my fellow human. And what was the third thing? Oh yeah, and in hotels, don't share rooms. I mean, I know it's probably normal, but you know, if you're traveling with a colleague, like you could, because in America you always get 2 double beds. You could just have some personal space, have a bit of like that. So then I mean,
I think we've done it in the past. You and me, we definitely shared a room.
Yeah, we've done it. Yeah.
But if you're traveling,
if you're doing it all the time,
and also quite often when you're traveling, you get ill.
It's
and
not
stuff
uni.
Like that.
Yeah.
You just, if you've got ill and you're sharing a room with someone, it's like, oh, this is unpleasant.
Yeah, it just generally you just need a bit of me time and stuff. So I think with those kind of things, and then our work credit card gives us access to sort of basic lounges.
Oh yeah, that's good.
That just makes it slightly nicer.
That is definitely a great boon, actually.
Yeah.
Because being able to just sit there, and because when you go to airports normally, and you're kind of, even if you sit down and have a bit of a meal, you're rushed out and you're like, oh man. But yeah, no, that's great, and you can work. I mean, that's what the other thing I think, actually, I try now with my flights to think of it as, you know, what work I can do, like realistically.
Yeah.
But, I mean, obviously, if you're flying long haul and it's overnight and stuff, like sometimes it's quite hard to open a laptop and plug away, but
especially if someone's reclining their seat.
Yeah. Well, you could recline yours.
Yeah. Well, that's a really comfortable position for a laptop. Leaning back. Oh yeah, I'm fabulous.
Living the dream. Look at me, I'm an international jet setter.
You're just going to have to agree with me. I'm right. You know, EasyJet and other ones, you can't even recline those seats.
Yeah, I know, but that's because it's like 1 hour.
Or 3 hours.
But like if you're flying long haul.
Yeah, but they're like, there's a revolution coming, and it's called don't fucking recline your seat.
I think the last couple of times ago, there was an argument on the plane because someone said,
I mean, if you're in business and you bought a bed, boom, fine, you bought a bed, but they made a bed.
Yeah.
Like, fine. Although I imagine the snoring must be extraordinary in business. I don't know.
Who knows?
I never turned left.
Yeah. I did once, actually, when I worked for Pearson. Which was...
It's almost worse. It's almost like you got it and then it got taken away for like 20 years.
I made that decision thinking, you know what, my future's not within big corporates, it's within startups. And I've never got back to those dizzy heights. I had a company car, had my own corner office, not a corner office, just a normal office. I don't know why I said corner. My own office, and
Wow.
It was only that one time, and it was to LA. And actually, it was a bit of a mistake, I think, because there was a new PA that just joined, and she booked all the tickets, and it just happened.
It was like a fluke.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
I'll take the admin errors. I once got upgraded on a flight back from Dubai. That was sweet. It was only to premium economy, but just, that was nice. But that was just, I don't know why. I just turned up and they said, oh, we've got a slightly nicer seat. I didn't even know what that meant. I was like, okay. I mean, a seat's a seat, isn't it? I was like, okay, well, you're the wise one, sure. Yeah. And then I went in and I was like, ooh, that's a much nicer seat.
You can even recline, but I mustn't.
There's no need. You get so much room. Why would you need to recline? It's just greed, gluttony, space gluttony. Okay. Anyway, so we're just talking about travel tips there, but I think that wasn't the point, was it? Well,
it was. I suppose it was this thing of like, I mean, realistically, this is going to get worse, and we're not the only company that does this. So, you know, how do people deal with it? And should we even be doing it? Should we be getting on a flight? Should I be saying, actually, look, technology allows us not to have this stuff. Is technology good enough yet? And will it ever be good enough? I don't know, because we're humans, you know. Nothing beats like human interaction, right? It doesn't mean it has to happen all the time, but it has to happen. And it's not technology's fault. It's not like it's not good enough. It's like, no, it's because for many millennia, we've been wired a different way. We're social. Like the only way the human race became the dominant species was because of our ability to collaborate and having thumbs, I think, or whatever it was. It was the Neanderthals that we kind of pushed out, wasn't it? I think because we were better at conceptualizing things. Yeah.
Anyway, but like
and singing, we could sing.
Okay. Is that really,
how would they know that?
Is that what got rid of the mammoths? No, I think it was the Ice Age. Anyway, right, we're clearly not very good at that, but like, moving on, but collaboration, right? Collaboration and working together, cooperating, and if people are depressed, often they are also lonely, or like the loneliness can lead to depression. There's links between think of more sad stuff like elderly people on their own. Like, it's the company that they've got the TV on, but that isn't the same. I know that in Slack or whatever, you are two-way communicating. The TV isn't necessarily doing that. But the reality is you have to be with people if you're going to really make a difference with it. But you don't have to do it all the time. So I think you do. I don't think you just rely completely on technology tools, or it will be okay, but it will never be great.
Yeah. I don't think I predicted quite how much travel, or I suppose it's kind of obvious being a distributed company. But before, when we ran Cogent and we had an office in Thailand, I mean, I went out a couple of times, but I didn't go out. I didn't do anywhere near as much traveling as we've suddenly ended up doing within ScreenCloud. And it's not just to different offices. It's a good example is we're all flying to Dubai in a couple of weeks' time. That's not because we've got an office there. It's just because actually that's a convenient halfway point between London and Thailand.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it still feels strange, but quite good. But it seems to be you and I and Luke especially as well.
He's been on a lot of flights.
Are in the air a lot, traveling a lot.
I don't think this is unusual. But also, it's a bit apples and oranges, the old company, because it was an SME, it was a much smaller team. Also, the work we were doing was quite the same. It's like another
all our
project,
customers are in London. We're mainly in London and certainly in England. Yeah.
But with this, we're growing really rapidly. I think we're doing, we're laying foundations for the future here. So we're trying to make sure that we know that all of those different hubs are going to grow a lot. Unless something horrible radically doesn't work out, but the plan is that all of them will grow with their own focus areas. And if they start off bad, they do not suddenly randomly fix themselves later. So you have to put quite a lot of effort in at the beginning. I personally find it, if you're on roughly the same time zone or closer time zone, it's easier not to be there as often, although I might live to regret those words. But when they're more remote, I think actually, strangely enough, they do need to see you more. Otherwise, the disconnect probably just feels really large. I mean, you can probably have better testament to that.
Yeah,
I
also think that the LA thing it's interesting because you were talking about doing lots of quick hops, and I think for me in LA it's actually. I don't know. It's difficult. So if you go over for a week, quite often it's really intense, and it's drinks and it's dinner and that kind of stuff.
Yes,
and it's great, and you get a lot done. But what you miss out on is those kind of incidental chats. Those kind of I'm just in the car with someone and we're going to have a chat about something. Oh, I never really thought about that. That's a really good idea. And that's what happens when you spend more time with people and you're working with them in a more just normal, two-way conversation.
I actually realised there's an interesting definition that we didn't really talk about here, because I was thinking exactly what you were just saying there. I was like, so why does that kind of work for me but not for you? And the difference is, I think, LA isn't direct report to me, but they are to you.
Yeah.
So I think if I were to go and do a short time in Bangkok, Bangkok reports to Luke. They don't report to me. So do they need to see me for 3 weeks, 2 weeks? No, because actually that would probably skew the interaction away from how it should actually be.
Yeah. Which is,
I'm coming in, we're going to hopefully structure the time. And that's another little hack. If you are going to do the short thing, is I think we did well with LA, was we had lined up, and we're going to do the same for Dubai, lined up a really strong agenda, had done lots of preparation before. We all turned up and gave presentations, and we had official note takers and actions. And we really optimized that time, really well organized, which was good. So it's like we went to LA for a purpose, right? The purpose was sales conference. It was, we've got new product, new pricing, plans for team expansion, and we're going up to enterprise. There's some big topics that need to be discussed, sorted out. And actually, if we blended that over 2 weeks, it would have sort of watered down a bit, but doing a short thing. But totally different objective would be, we want this team to just grow and improve and perform better and things. And actually doing that in a short, sharp shock probably doesn't really make much impact. Probably gives you a little false lift.
Yeah.
And then back to normal.
I also think culturally it's it feels like you need a founder to be in the sort of spending a reasonable amount of time in those sort of hubs in order to kind of get that culture thing across. I mean, I'm sure it's not necessarily always the case, but so people like Basecamp talk a lot about how they manage their culture across different sort of distributed teams or remote teams, actually. But like certainly, yeah. Obviously, you, me, and Luke, we know what the culture of the company is. We know what we've worked together for such a long time. It's sort of second nature to us. The guys out in LA, to a degree, have had to kind of learn it on the fly. They're not even on the same time zone as us, so they're kind of looking at conversations that have happened on Slack. They might miss some of those nuances. So I think certainly, yeah, actually me being there is super important, or certainly a founder being there is super important.
Curious question, actually, because that's the other definition. We are not a fully remote. We haven't designed the company to be a fully remote team. I wonder if you had a fully remote team, like let's say you had 100 employees, but full remote. So literally you didn't really care.
From home, yeah.
Working from, wherever they want to work from. Would you do less travel? Presumably so. It's not like you're going to go, either you're going to do an insane amount of travel where you're sort of hopping from city to city.
Which would probably be pointless.
Totally pointless.
Yeah.
So you probably would do less because actually the whole DNA of your company is that we don't see each other. But then you do probably do your offsite, maybe you do some team offsites once every quarter, and maybe you do, your big company all hands thing. But maybe if you're a distributed team like we are, because we're a distributed team with a bit of remote, but the reality is remote's not really a big part of our plan, is it? I mean, it's something we're okay with. Yeah, but it's actually not something we're really optimizing for. We're optimizing towards this distributed hubs, rather than everyone in one big place.
Yeah.
I think if you're distributed hubs, then definitely you don't want to have a fear of flying. That's for sure, or reclining seats. Just can't let it go.
I love a recliner. Make sure I don't ever sit in front of you.
I'm just know this: if you're a recliner, I am so judging you so much, especially if it's like whilst we're still taking off virtually. I'm like, I hate you so much.
Yeah, I think the etiquette should be you have dinner, and then you recline.
I'm derailing us. I'm sorry. I just can't get off this subject. I'm just a champion for it. I just
kind of think if it's there, it's like everyone's supposed to, it's...
No, but if you applied the rule of it's there, therefore I should take it. I mean, what position?
But everybody is taking it.
If everyone took advantage of everything they possibly could.
There's a whole column of people.
You open the fridge and think, I'm just going to consume everything because it's there.
But like everybody is reclining apart from one person. Going, I'm not reclining.
No, me and other normal, sophisticated, and actually decent humans aren't.
I don't think it's rude to recline.
I'm not the only one in the world on this one. I swear.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's just.
I think it's just an accepted thing. Like you get on the thing.
No, you're a bastard.
You recline, and everyone else, and then the person behind.
I like you slightly less now. Okay, what are we talking about? Distributed teams versus full remote versus full thing. Yeah, so definitely that, and I think. Again, how could you possibly be a sole founder and pull this off? Because distributed teams is clearly either full remote or distributed is the future because the costs. I mean, if you're a European, and you go to America, the costs are going to shock you, especially if you're on a dodgy pound like we are. Woo, out, it hurts.
Yeah.
So if you're going to recruit everyone there, you're going to. No wonder they raise so much money.
Yeah.
Because everything costs so much. But actually, because of the tools, which actually are pretty decent now, it just doesn't make any sense to have everyone in such an expensive location. And they could just distribute across the country because you don't have to leave America per se. You just don't go into one of the several most expensive cities in the planet. So I think that for most companies, if I was setting up another company like this, I would 100% go distributed team from day one, just total. I'm not sure about full remote. I'm not panning the model. I think you have to be insanely well organized.
I think distributed teams, hubs, and people and flexible working. That seems to be really good.
Yeah, it seems to be a good model for now. I'm sure in 5 years' time this will sound like antiquated, everything usually does. But yeah, sorry, I've drifted off with my stupid reclining thing. Sorry. If you do agree, though, reach out. We're going to form a little club.
The recliners and the non-recliners. I just kind of think if you've got a problem with reclining, buy a different seat.
Well, once we get to our milestone, hopefully I can.
Yeah.
That's one of the things. I'm not sure if we're actually going to do it because we haven't really done the math on it. But
Well, I think for
when we get to,
long haul flights,
10 or 12 minutes, but is that for everyone? I mean, if we do ScreenCloud together, that's going to be a lot of money. I think, like...
Or it could just be one of the legs if you're doing it overnight.
One leg. Oh, sorry. So I was like, well, I've got one leg in business. My left foot is being pampered. Yeah. But my right foot can just take whatever get.
You kind of turn over and...
Can have a baby puking on it.
Not being able to recline.
One leg. Which leg would you choose? No, I don't mean left.
I don't know.
Sorry.
I think maybe my left.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. If you're going overnight.
Right. So would you prefer comfort going out or coming back? I suppose it's going out because you want to be on better form when you get there. But then if you're all tired...
So if you're going from London to America, you normally go during the day. So you don't really need to lie down. If you're coming back...
But then you're fully conscious of all of your discomfort.
But if you're... For me, well, I don't know. For me, the discomfort is not being able to sleep because I can't recline my seat.
My discomfort is like my knees burning hot because I can't fit in the seat.
Yeah, okay. So we have different knee requirements.
It's just not hot knees. That's like my only thing. I just don't want to have hot knees. It just hurts.
Yeah.
Kind of drives you mad. The small things. But they're not small things. If I was going to torture someone, you would probably just do small little bits of discomfort for a long period of time. I think people will eventually crack.
But I mean, I suppose out of all of this, what was clear, because we were quite passionate about the
reclining seats.
Yeah, passionate about the travel because it
affects you.
But the other thing,
you come home and you come and see your family and you're all grumpy because you haven't. People think you're an arsehole. It's just you're exhausted. It's a real thing.
But and I suppose for most entrepreneurs, if you're setting up a company and you're thinking about the future, it's that thing of like, have you thought that probably
left to go in business?
Yeah, one of you is going to probably have to live in a different country.
Oh yeah. And if your customers and your investors are going to be in, I mean, if it's SaaS, right? People listening to this probably are kind of SaaS people. Biggest market for SaaS in the world, and doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon, is the US. And if you're not in the US, then get used to being in the US and possibly even living there. I mean, I think it's a when not if thing. Yeah. And then we can kind of fool ourselves for a while, and then you have to stop fooling yourselves, and then you move.
It was interesting when I was at SaaStock and went out for dinner, and the amount of Irish people that I met who were always like, "Oh no, I'm living in America now." I'm like, "What? So all of you?" Like, yeah. And it was just like, no, obviously that's what you do. And I was like, wow, because
you can always come back later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I definitely don't imagine myself retiring I see this as a relatively short-term thing, depending on the needs of the business and the needs of the family, I guess. But I imagine that I will be living out my retirement years in England and maybe France or something like that. In Europe, certainly. But yeah, you never know. I mean, so many people we met out there said, oh, we did exactly what you said. You came out saying, yeah, we're just going to be here for a couple of years. And that was 15 years ago and we would never go back.
I mean, one thing's for sure, that the modern way of working and the modern world is pushing forward a lot of changes you might not otherwise have thought about making. I mean, go back like a decade or so ago, my friends who now live in Australia, like who's like Umar, right? Who used to work with us. He just had a dream. He wanted to go and live in Sydney, Australia. And my friend Goffey, right? He wanted to go and live in New York. He'd stated that preference from the age of about 18. It was his dream. It was his dream. He wanted to go and live in New York.
Never knew that.
Yeah. Exactly. And so those are the kind of people that relocated because they sort of had a dream. But like, this wasn't your dream. No, it's not mine. I don't think it's Luke's particularly.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, if tomorrow we said, right, you don't have to go and live in LA, I mean, it'll be a bit gutted because I've done a lot of planning for it, but it wouldn't be the end of the world for me. It's not like, oh, that was my life's dream. Yeah. And actually, I really like my life in England as well. So, yeah. But having said that, I recognize that the value that will be created because one of us is actually physically there on the ground is immense, and it's probably hopefully it will make a big difference. That's why we're doing it.
But historically, I don't think. I mean, I might be wrong, but I don't. I mean, I actually did grow up abroad in Dubai because my dad had a job out there. So I'm kind of almost suggesting something that actually happened to me. It doesn't happen very often. But I think historically there weren't as many jobs which pushed travel quite to the same degree that things are happening now. I don't know. Or maybe we're just in a bubble. Like I just see the bubble of SaaS. I mean, I don't know much outside of that. I mean, that's all I get time to think about, to be honest.
There is that other sort of point as well, which I kind of, when we were talking earlier about this, I'm not sure if we should even go there, but, climate change is a thing. And
no, it's real.
It's and sort of your future, planning our future, and like, it's going to get worse. We're going to do more traveling. It feels like, I don't know, it feels that there's an issue there. There's some sort of clash there in what's right, but what's needed. And
well, so this week, I mean, I don't know when this is going to go out, but like this week, Flybe, which is a UK airline that sort of does mostly internal domestic UK flights, almost collapsed. And I'll be honest, I was like, no, that's what I use to get to Belfast. I was like, don't collapse. I need those routes. And I mean, this might just be because it helps me, but I would argue that there is a need for flights between Northern Ireland and the mainland Britain because there's a big sea in the middle. Whereas flying from London to Manchester, I would never fly that. I would take a train like a normal person. But I was quite pleased that theoretically the government saved it, but that's caused a whole load of things. Like, well, you're saving and subsidising airline travel when we should be doing less of it. But I don't know. I don't think I can take an Irish ferry over to Belfast every time I want to go and see the team for a day. That's quite a big. I mean, you take the train to Wales and this. I mean, it's not straightforward.
Yeah. I suppose it's the thing. It's like with companies that are like ours that are becoming, we're just instantly global, like you can't get away. We couldn't say, oh well, we're just going to sell to people in England. Like that just doesn't work.
Literally kill the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that is a big one. Maybe there's one for another time. I mean, we've solved the reclining thing. I've clearly won, and my left leg is going to go into business class. So the world's in a happy place.
I've just got this picture of this
straddling
economy class with basically everybody reclined apart from this one furious McD who sat there with going, well, you can recline if you like, but I'm not going to do it.
I am a person of principles.
I have respect for the person behind me, that person
who's asleep, doesn't care.
Snoring,
whatever,
reclined. Mate. It doesn't matter.
It matters to me. And no doubt several others.
Yeah.
It's just a thing.
Well,
I'm just planting that seed. I'm just planting. You're going to go, I know what you're going to do next time. You're going to get on that plane and you're going to 50% recline.
Yeah.
You're going to go, maybe not the whole way.
Or do it like in 10% increments.
The revolution has begun.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I guess you could turn around and say, would you mind if I recline my seat?
Well, that's okay. Although being British, I have to say yes, and then still not really like that.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, that's awkward. But that's a cultural issue. We can't really say what we think, except on this podcast.
Yeah, where we can really truly say what we think. Okay. So right. I think I don't know whether we've resolved anything here.
Well, because we haven't really lived out most of those models. They're about to happen. So apart from things we've experienced, we don't. I mean, there isn't. It's hard to know exactly how that works.
I mean, certainly the thing that I was doing with going out for a month at a time was good, but it was also
for a while, but
a lot of
quite
work.
Disruptive.
It's really disruptive, and the other thing is like we kind of felt in limbo land the whole time. It's like, well, is this happening or is this not happening? And we're still not like that. I would make the decision, but it's kind of like once we decide on anything. I mean, with everything in life, once you decide, you just go and get it. If you're kind of saying, well, we'll kind of do this hybrid thing for a little bit and just see how it goes, you still got this thing hanging.
I think all of those models are hybrids toward a more permanent solution naturally, one way or another.
Yeah.
Because doing tons and tons of travel eventually sucks for the planet, for yourself, for your family, for your knees.
Yeah.
And other things. I don't know.
Yeah.
Should we call it?
Okay.
That's it.
It's been emotional.
Don't recline seat. Bye.